Second one of these I've led. Last week, I led my first one. I mean, first. I'm not a moderator. But I learned there was a technique, and it's just perfect for this one. This is an ongoing story. We're stepping into it. You know, there are no, I don't have to form any expectations. Denise has already set the story, and it's going to continue. So what we're doing today is just continuing that story in a little more focus. And the other thing I learned is these are timed. Because the first one, we forgot about that until I felt this little tap on my shoulder. And Denise was saying, there's another one that follows you. So we are now on a timer. I also learned that random selection of the questions doesn't get you all the answers Denise needs. So I'm going to abandon that part of the experiment. But I got to change something. So we're going to start at the bottom. Because everybody else started at the top. So our first question. Can this model support a network of centers around the country? And here, we are talking as technologists. So, I want to take...
We need to introduce that first.
We're going to, they'll each get their chance. Easy. I got to multiplex this now. Okay. As you start to respond, keep in mind two things. As technologists, what can we do to help the center achieve that? And what does that mean to us as technologists? David, would you start and introduce yourself?
Well, I'm perhaps not the best person to start on this, having just arrived. And I tried to listen in a bit from work and kept getting interrupted. But I'm delighted to be here. My name is David Klingman, work with the World Bank, and had the great privilege of working with Denise when she was with us at the World Bank. And now that I hear about the Terragram events, it reminds me of the good old days because, as someone pointed out, a number of these initiatives, they only come around once every 25 years or so. And we're going through a cycle right now where we haven't been seeing as much activity in that area. But getting back to your question about can this model support a network of centers around the country? Sure, why not? I think one of the things that strikes me is that everything is becoming a virtual center these days. No matter what you're working on, you've got someone somewhere who's going to be your liaison. And the centers around the country could simply be an individual who's tapped into the central office and system and is able to answer questions. So I think very definitely, and I guess coming from a World Bank perspective, I'd throw the question back up, why simply around the country and not around the world?
So we don't go into that one in depth. I think that's most everyone here moved very quickly to that global perspective. But in keeping with Denise's vision and an image that we've all been taught now over time, and that's the squirrels and the bulls, we've got to have a place to start. And I think Denise's vision, starting in Ohio, starting regionally, finding an anchor, building up from there, fits very well with exactly what the rest of us have found. Our perception is this will end up going global. Okay. Sure.
All right, let me add something to that.
Introduce yourself.
Oh yeah, I'm Derek Rector. From Dymax. We're a boutique consultancy based here in Washington, D.C. And I'm also an entrepreneur. We build products. Got offices in Romania and Canada as well. This question of can the center support a network of centers around the world? The first thing is, as a technologist, I don't like to look at technology first. I like to think about what technology can augment and enhance. Whatever you're going to do has to happen in the real world, the real part of our lives. And when I was listening to stories at lunch about the Goodyear cafeteria and the way that it's become an incredible hotbed for knowledge exchange. I'm thinking also of an article I read, a disturbing article I read in the Washington Post yesterday about Fairfax County, where I live in Virginia, throwing out tens of thousands of library books from the public libraries. Dumpster. And the lack of vision that was apparent to me, or the lack of understanding what public libraries are really all about. I'm going somewhere with this. I think that network already exists. It's a network of public libraries. It's a network of corporate libraries. Third basement level of the World Bank, in the main complex, last time I looked, there's an incredible management library. It's where I started when I was at the World Bank. The other thing that's happening in Fairfax County is they're replacing, master's educated librarians with effectively line workers with high school diplomas. Again, absolute disregard of knowledge. So I think one of the things that the center could do is to first recognize that real knowledge transfer happens face to face. And it happens in environments like libraries and cafeterias where unplanned collisions can occur. So a starting point, I think, is to focus on where can those collisions occur. In companies, in communities. If the city is the unit at which we can measure this sort of thing, then public libraries seem to me to be something that the center should have a focus on. And then from there we can look at technology and how we can augment and enhance and amplify what is actually happening face to face in those places. So I'll leave it at that. I'm sure other people who know more about library science and how libraries are run could add more to it. But I think we could do a lot with social media. I could give you a list of 18 different technologies that we could probably apply to augment and enhance. But I think we have to start with something real.
Write them down. Yeah.
Okay.
Gail?
Hi, I'm Gail Hodge with Information International Associates. We're a woman-owned small business who started managing federal libraries. So most of us are librarians, and in fact, I had the very same thought that you did about the benefit of thinking of public libraries as being part of this kind of network. However, there's also perhaps a slightly extended model to that in fact the medical community has been using. The National Library of Medicine and their regional library networks have used academia as well as hospital libraries. It has more to do with their capabilities than it does with the type of library that they are. But when they were facing how to get out to the community, getting out to the community became the public library. That was the closest that they could get, and they got very, very good results. So, one of my suggestions would be to talk to Don Lindbergh and the folks at the National Library of Medicine about that particular model and how they orchestrated it.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Good pronunciation. The Turkish name. I'm from International Humanitarian Fund. Yes, I'm a librarian too by profession, and I started out years ago from the grassroots and cataloging, indexing, and then got connected with Denise 12 years ago or so, working on a thesaurus, and then now we're struggling with turning our thesauri into taxonomy and finding the right technology. I heard a couple of people talking about smart logic. We're working with smart logic. So it's good to talk to each other. It's a great forum to learn about who's doing what. Networking, yes, librarians and library associations have been very active in this kind of activities, bringing people together, talking. 10 years ago, again, we were talking about information literacy, and there were lots of articles and research, and then
somehow we just disappeared. Information literacy, nobody is paying attention to it, but it's so important. How do you find information? Where do you go? How do you learn? If you buy a house, you learn about mortgages, finances, all that stuff. And a hub center like this would be very useful, and I think in micro and macro level, everywhere, I think we need this kind of communication, and we need people like Denise. We need more Denises. That's what we need, so that people can take their time and bring people together, and we can talk to each other.
Good. It's interesting. My background coming into this was very strange, but at one point, my colleague and I, we decided to try and get a handle on it. We broke it up in two pieces, or two of us.
Mm-hmm.
He took the I want to tell side, I took the I want to know side. Now, we've talked about models, and there's a model here that I used, and that was the reference librarian. I think it's probably one of the richest models we have available to us to understand, and I think it's a very applicable one to add to the mix. And I'm going to jump one right now because that's part of the business model. I would say, now, from a technologist standpoint, yeah, we're up on number 4. What are the business, from a technology standpoint? Now, we've talked about the extension model, we've talked about Peace Corps model to get enthusiasm, we've talked franchises, now we've got this other one. And I'm going to start right back with you. Mm-hmm. From the technology standpoint, again, what can technology provide and what can technology benefit from this in these business models? Now include the reference librarian. You've got that pretty well grounded.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, all of us in our organization spend a lot of time and money working with similar products and creating different applications of the same product or same tool. So it would be really wonderful if we could all get a little bit more together, but also give some incentives to companies to help us out and partner with us maybe in knowledge management. My experience is a little bit different than the reference librarian who's still a reference librarian or whose job turned into a paraprofessional. Mine went the other way. I ended up in the entire technology department heading a section where multiple applications, project management, business analysis, CBAs, and return on investment. So my time is not devoted to knowledge management. I am so much into the whole real world of applications and technology. So partnering with business and again, partnering with companies who produce knowledge management tools and products, I think will help all of us, and we can all share our time, resources, and knowledge. I think a center like this will be very helpful. I don't know if that's...
And I think I totally agree, and I think it'd be a two-way street.
Yeah.
Because when you partner with someone, we should be gaining from them, and they should be learning from them.
Exactly. You could maybe highlight one vendor as the product of the year or something like this, and then they take this as an advertisement and we get something out of it, they get something out of it. I don't know. We could come up with some models like this.
Gail, how do you see that?
I see, coming from the small business community and the federal community, I think that another model that has business components to it, but it also has certain rules of engagement, is the technology transfer community. And there are many, many flavors of that. There's the academic to business, there's grantees, there's, SBIR, small business, rules of engagement as well. But there are some agencies like NASA, for example, and I think transportation that do it very well. And I think that would be something to look at. There is a federal laboratory consortium that has a lot of experience in analyzing technology transfer engagements and why they work and why they don't work. One of the things that you just mentioned struck me too is that it is a two-way street. There's things that that the research community can get from the small businesses, for example, and vice versa. And when it works very well, as it often does in the NASA environment, it gets their science promoted, and the companies get something, and ultimately, you know, we get Teflon. Okay, so we all benefit ultimately. Now that business model is one of the public good, but still, you know, there may be components of that in this center as well.
Okay. And I'm actually going to ask you to pass the mic because I want you to add your entrepreneurial and wrap that. Yeah.
Okay, well, I agree with the idea about partnering, and that could go in a number of different directions. You know, partnering with technology companies, partnering with other businesses in the area, local businesses. And, you know, in thinking of this as a cooperative economic model, certainly some type of membership that companies could provide, or you know, there could be different levels of membership depending on the types of services that they would want to take advantage of. And then co-branding. You know, given the strength of the Kent State name, I'm sure that there would be a number of companies, corporations that would be delighted to kind of co-brand and build on that.
Yeah, so I'll give you two, maybe a couple of perspectives. One is the entrepreneurial perspective. This, for us, this is a theme that's repeated a few times throughout the day, but for us as a company that is doing innovative things at a unit level in some cases, to have a venue where we can come and present with our client what we've created. If we had been able to present what we did with the World Bank financial sector, for example, in cooperation with, all of you would be 5 years further ahead than you are right now, because our technology, we would have been able to find a couple of other early adopter customers, or it would have evolved. We're actually currently building the next generation as a hybrid of our own platform and SharePoint, and that will be released at the end of this month within the bank. But nobody else outside of the bank, and I guess the IMF, because it also accesses those reports, has benefited from the innovative work we did. So I really like the idea of this sort of recognition. If we can compete for that, if we can bring our innovations and our solutions to this kind of community, and the benefit for us isn't necessarily just an award; it's a possibility of accessing other early adopter customers. That's an opportunity for us to grow, right? As an enterprise architect, which is a role that I play within our consultancy, and I work with organizations like the World Bank on this kind of thing. It's noteworthy that this particular technology, this case that I'm describing, that technology was never adopted anywhere else in the World Bank. It never made it outside of that particular department. The point is that sometimes organizations are so large that if the center, in some cases, a center can cut through the hierarchy of a large corporation or a large organization and bring people with common needs across these departments or units together. I have a feeling there would be at least a half a dozen other people within the World Bank and the IMF who would have been exposed to what we did that have no idea that we did it, if the center could provide that sort of venue. So those are two different perspectives. I hope those are helpful.
It's not too late.
We're here.
And here, I'd like to join, you know, if I could, I'd like to join the panel on that question, because, and I'd like to bring something forward from last week. Last week there was a term that we heard a lot. It's called the have-nots. You know, we've been discussing this today from the corporate position, or those who are in place can do their research. They're in an academic setting. Last week I was the poster boy for the have-nots. I'm an independent researcher. I don't have an academic anchor. I'm grandfathered into the folks at GW. I think got a pity party, but you know, I've done all my research on my own. There are people out there, not only researchers, there are people out there across the entire range of our stakeholders who are in that have-not world. We've got an awful lot of haves, too. I mean, we've got some tremendous resources represented in this room. There's a balance there. I'm not going to say what that model is, but I'm saying to find a business model within there that accommodates that, the haves and the have-nots, they're both their benefit. And the other one I want to come back to, and thank you very much for the segue, and that's not only do we have a very synergistic relationship with domains such as enterprise architecture, but we also have them with finance, with all kinds of. Our business model also needs to reach out to the other domains. That was just the part I want to add. Now, we've got about 8 minutes left. See, I'm watching the clock here, Denise. And rather than try to get into the other three, which Ann took her group through, and I'm sure we're going to get back to them again, I want to open this up for questions. Yes. We'll start at the very back and work the mic forward.
We were just talking about business models. My name is Alexandra Winkler. I'm a Kent student of Denise's and an Air Force reservist, and I used to work for Deloitte as a management consultant as well. I just moved from Japan about, I guess, 2 months ago now. I took a month and hung out in the Pacific Northwest, and my husband and I and our family were looking at different cities. So we were reaching out to the community because we want to figure out where we want to live when we grow up. And the first thing we did when we went to Seattle and Boise and Bend, Oregon, were to go to the visitor center, the tourism, right? And we started asking questions. What kind of businesses do you have here? Because we want our careers too, our next careers. And then they just started telling us about, well, this is a big Church of Latter-day Saints thing. This is a big Catholic community. So we talked about different groups that way. Well, this is a big university center over here, and this is about the different groups. And then we started talking about the different economic opportunities and the different networks, the Boise Green Building Council, those things. So we were talking about small business, but I want to introduce, maybe we connect with the Better Business or the visitor center kind of thing. And that's also a hub where people get together or organize different things like the Green Building Council meetings and stuff like that. So, and those are guys that are all, it's like a network of network. I was doing a lot of research last semester for my organizational network analysis class as well, because I was trying to get to how could we, this is an aside, how can we leverage digital volunteers, crowdsourcing a little bit better in the event of disasters, military background. So I like looking into that thing. And did a lot of online research and found the Humanity Roads and the different organizations that are trying to use crowdsourcing as well. And I came across a new network of networks called Digital Humanitarians, or DH, and it's like a bunch of different companies, groups, technologies, and emergency management organizations that are getting together to figure out how to better leverage the crowd in the event of disaster. So Digital Humanitarians, DH, they have a little symbol and it looks like and even Red Cross, right? So that's another business model as well, that it has complete virtual online presence.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before I take the next question, I wrote down what I hope is going to become a buzzword, because it's something we've never thought of. While we might hear find it very natural to get excited about and really enjoy these conversations. Has anybody ever thought about the idea of knowledge tourism? They've got tourism based around everything else. Maybe there's something there. I don't know. I bet it just was there. Next question. Yes. We'll take.
May I respond to that?
Oh, okay.
If I want to look at it successfully, it should be about successful engagement first. And I think humans, when they moved from the agricultural society or agricultural economy to the industrial economy, they managed to commercialize the human body. And I don't know exactly why we can't commercialize intellectual capital. The first case, they really managed to make out of the human body main source for wealth. And the question is how we can commercialize this intellectual capital and make it a major source for wealth. This is a challenging question.
Yeah. People use that term, but I don't think they've ever gotten to teach what you're looking for.
George Mihalis from Phoenix Partnership. I wonder if such a center should not have a sort of permanent updating of what is going on in intellectual property rights, copyrights, and so on. More and more local communities are involved in cultural, creative industries, and America exports 74% of the production. No, 40% of the production in America is IP-based, and 74% of exports are IP-based. So the big challenge arising from China, India, Russia, and other countries. I think every local community should have an updated understanding on what it's all about IP.
Great. So I'll add on that. Brad Lewis again from Corporation for National and Community Service. And what I haven't heard a lot about here today is fun. Fun, you heard of it. Yes, good. I see some nodding heads. So if the center's future clients or students or professors are still in grade school or junior high school or high school, then we ought to think now about how to attract, gain their loyalty, and, that's why so many schools do tours, right? You come around, you see their place, you go to a party, you think, oh, this is a pretty good place to go, How many of us have done tours of the, universities with your high school age students, right? Or sons and daughters. So I want to talk about, very briefly, gamification, which is to say making a game out of things that are not usually seen as games, and gaming as a way to introduce serious topics into, with a fun kind of spin, right? So one of the things that we did last several years at the corporation was to team with Microsoft, U.S. Partners in Education. Now, Microsoft has 108 offices around the world, all in different countries, working on education issues, right? So what we did was to create a game where kids would come in online, like World of Warcraft or something, and they would get a mission. But the mission in this case isn't kill the orc and grab the treasure. The mission in this case is find out how efficient your school or house or neighborhood center is for lighting. Get the cost of alternative lighting, make the case for why they should spend a little bit more for the squiggly bulbs instead of the nice round ones, and then let them do the math and show them where the savings are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there you have a serious game or many other names for this type of work that engages young people and adults, and sophisticated analyses while also tying them into the place that gave them that game. There's a lot more to it, but I'll stop right there.
That's excellent. I mean, we started, a minute ago we had knowledge tourism. Now what we got hit with was the virtual knowledge theme park. I mean, this is tremendous. But and
You can have it in a second, right?
And the fact that there's so many hands up, means we've got a lot more conversation tomorrow, because we are now 14 seconds over.
Thank you, everyone,
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you very much, Denise.
Thank you.
Shall we take about a 10-minute break? Okay, and can we all come back at 4, and then we're kind of on schedule? Yes, thank you. Thank you.